So let's pray. Let's pray. We're going to jump in to the sermon this morning. Look at somebody and say, it's good to see you. UK plays at 1. All right. Let's pray. Let's pray. Let's pray. Jesus, right now, we pray that you would get our hearts, get our minds, and help us just to lean in. Help us to be all in right now. God, speak to us. And Father, I pray that God, what is said here today, we're dealing with some heavy stuff today. I pray that what is said, God, would come from you, would glorify you, would not be from me. And Father, that this would be a time where at the end of it, we would know that you have just dealt with us. And so God, just have your way. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your church. Thank you for worship we've already had. And God, we thank you that the University of Kentucky Wildcats are in the finals today. Give them a win. Amen. All right, there we go. There we go. There we go. I know you guys clapped because I just prayed for the Wildcats, not because, so you have no idea how many people came up to me and said today, Mark, how long's church? And I said, why you want to know? Because they said the UK plays at 1. So, Mark, whatever you got to say is not that good. So I did hear that this morning, and you will get the bill for counseling. So, because I'm going to need it. All right, John 15 is where we're at. We're in our series, Rooted. Today we're in part 5. So John 15, verses 1 through 11. Go ahead and open up your Bibles. Turn them on if you got them on your phone. John 15, 1 through 11. And today we are in part 5 of our series, Rooted. We end this series next week, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be real sad. I have loved this series, man. The feedback has been really positive, and it just seems like God has used this week. Our life groups have been on a really cool journey and some specific material we put together for this. And man, it's going to be, I'm going to be bummed next week, excuse me, when this ends. But today we're in part 5 of our series, Rooted. And so if you got a Bible on your phone, open it up, turn it on, whatever you need to do. John 15, 1 through 11. We've read these for the past 5 weeks, and next week we'll read them in the last part of our series. They're on the screen, too, if you need them. Here we go. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my word abides in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. We talked about that last week. You can go back and listen to it. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. You can go back and check that one out. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. I want to focus today on verse 2. So check out verse 2 one more time. We're going to be here all morning. So every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. Watch this next part. Here we go. And every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Hey, are there any gardeners in here this morning? Go ahead. If you're a gardener, if you would call yourself a gardener, raise your hand high. Okay? A few hands. My hand is not one of those. I'm not a gardener at all. Did you see Jesus in verse 1 said, my Father is the vine dresser? Did you see that? Some of your Bibles, some translations actually say, my Father is like a gardener. Maybe that's what your Bible says. I'm not a gardener at all, but when we lived in Western Kentucky, the house that we lived in Western Kentucky, just before we moved back home here to start Summit, we lived in Western Kentucky near Paducah for about 4 years, and there was a rose bush outside of our house. And you need to prune rose bushes. I don't know if you knew that. I did not know that. One day my wife said, hey, that rose bush, it needs to be pruned. It needs to be trimmed back. Why don't you go out and do that? I had never done that before in my entire life. Now, I didn't know this, but you gardeners know this. Did you know that if you prune a rose bush, you trim something like that, then there are certain ways to cut it so that it lives, right? Because the purpose of pruning is to cut, it's to trim back so that it leads to growth, right? So that it leads to life. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a certain way to cut. I didn't know you should only cut a little. I took a pair of scissors, and by the time I was done, you would have thought I had a chainsaw. And so I'm pretty positive that I don't think that I got asked to do that again. But Jesus says that God is like a gardener. He's a vine dresser. And what we're learning in this series, we are learning that we are connected to Jesus at all times. And Jesus uses that word 8 times in John 15, 1 through 11. He uses the word abide, which means to become more aware of His presence. So what we're doing in this series is we're talking about how to put Jesus more at the center of our lives. How can I be more aware of Jesus at work, at school, at home, with the kids washing dishes, when I'm watching a movie, whatever I'm doing, how can I have Him at the center? And so we've talked about prayer. We talked about bearing fruit. We talked about sowing today who you want to be tomorrow. But here's what you need to know. God, the divine gardener, the vine dresser, He is not going to leave you and me alone to try to figure that out. God is not going to leave us alone to try to figure out how to put Jesus at the center. No, instead what the divine gardener is going to do, Jesus says it in verse 2, that the Father prunes us. So that there are times, just like a gardener, maybe you're one of them, and you grab a pair of scissors or whatever it is, and you just begin to make certain kind of cuts that lead to growth. You trim back so that it leads to growth. God, the divine gardener, will make certain cuts in our lives. Trim back certain things in my life. And that is never fun, is it? It never feels good. It's never an enjoyable experience, but it is always for my benefit. See, here's what I want us to see today. I want us to see one thing. I want you to see today that God is able to take every ounce of pain you have ever experienced in your life and you will ever experience. God is able to take all of your pain and use it for His glory and your good. I want you to see that today. I want you to see that God is able to take every hurt, every setback, every disappointment, every failed plan, every opportunity missed. God is able to take every ounce of pain and use it for His glory and your good. I want you to see 5 things today about pain. 5 things, okay? First thing I need you to see today, first thing I need you to see about pain is simply this. Pain is real. Pain is real. Number one question people ask when pain, when hurt, when trials come into their life, what's the number one question you think we all ask? Because it's one question we all ask first and foremost. Why? Right? Don't we all ask that? Doesn't matter if you're a Christian, you're a Buddhist, you're an atheist, you're a Jedi, it doesn't matter what you are. That's the number one question people have is why? And Christians have a hard time answering that, don't we? Christians have a really hard time with that one. You know, if there's a good God in heaven, if there's a good God, all-powerful God in heaven, then why can't that God stop all pain, all hurt, and all suffering? We have a hard time with that question. But listen. It's not just Christians who have a hard time with that question. The culture that we live in has a hard time with the why question. About 3 weeks ago, I was watching, I think it was Dateline 2020, something like that, and they devoted the hour of about a month ago to the Columbine shootings. Do you remember those? Do you remember that when that happened? Columbine shooting? And the reason that they were talking about that is because one of the moms of one of the young men that was a shooter at Columbine, she just released a book. She kind of kept a diary, a memoir of everything happening at that time, so she just released that as a book. And so Dayline, they interviewed a lot of people during this hour, and they interviewed a lot of people at the FBI who investigated the Columbine shooting. They interviewed one particular woman that really stuck out to me from the FBI, and they asked her all kinds of questions about Columbine and things like that. And then out of nowhere, the reporter asked this woman from the FBI, she says, "Do you believe in evil?" And with the wonder of magic of editing, we don't know how long it took her to think about this or whatever, but the reporter says, "Do you believe in evil?" And instantly she says no. She says, "No, I don't believe in evil at all." She says this, "Evil is a spiritual term, and I don't work in that world." Well, listen, I want to tell you today, I don't know where you're at or what you believe, but I came to tell you today, evil is real. You need to know that. The evil is real. Every mass shooting is evil. Every act of terrorism is evil. Listen, I'll take it a step further. There are evil people in this world right now. You need to know that. With sin and some people's makeup, you just need to know there are evil people in the world at this moment. And see, we hear that and we agree with that, but here's what we also need to agree with. We also need to agree with that you and I, we are capable of evil, aren't we? I can hurt you, right? And you can hurt me. And the reason I know that's true is because there are people in this room right now and you have been hurt. You have been hurt by somebody that never should have hurt you. It might have been a family member. It might have been a boyfriend, a girlfriend. It might have been your spouse. Somebody hurt you. They said something about you. Pain is real, isn't it? See, the reason I want to start here this morning is because so many times, especially in the church, I hear Christians talk like pain isn't real. Or it doesn't matter. Or we just kind of shove it under the rug and we say things like this. Oh, well, that's how family treats each other. It's no big deal. Oh, well, yeah, you know what? It's no big deal. I'll move on. I'm sure it'll be okay in the end. No, I want you to listen to me. If you are going to get over the pain and the hurt in your past, one of the things you are going to have to do is acknowledge that happened and it was evil. That happened and it was awful. That happened and they sinned against me when they did that. See, pain is real, and we ask why. Where was God? Listen, I'll tell you, God was in the same place God's always been. God is on the throne when life is good and when life is bad, but you need to know God did not create the world with evil in it. God created the world good with no pain. There is evil and pain and hurt in the world because we chose evil, pain, and hurt. Adam and Eve chose it, and had we been there, we would have made the same decision. We chose evil, pain, hurt, disappointment. God did not create the world that way. God created the world good, but here's what we need to see. God is able to use pain for, like I said, His glory and my good. So you need to know first and foremost this morning, pain is real. But we're not going to stop there. The second thing that we need to acknowledge this morning is that when we talk about pain, there is more than what I see. There is more than what I see. When I was little, I used to play with Transformers. Anybody play with Transformers? Right now, you can admit, say, you know what, I still play with Transformers. That's perfectly fine. There's no judgment here. When I was little, and they still have that tagline. Transformers, anybody know the tagline for Transformers? More than meets what? John Holbrook or Ricky, somebody just screamed it. Revival broke out up here, right? More than meets the eye, right? There's more going on than what you see. It looks like a car, boom, it's a robot. There's more than meets the eye. Listen to me. With God, there is always more than meets the eye. That there is always more happening with God than what I see. I mean, did you see what Jesus said? Look again at 15:2. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, He takes away. But watch this. Every branch that does bear fruit, He prunes. Why? So that we would bear more fruit. When we're hurting, it doesn't feel that way, does it? When we're hurting, we say, God, what did I do wrong? And listen, most of the time, here's the answer. You didn't do anything wrong. But God loves you enough to let you walk through pain in a difficult season because God knows that on the other side of that difficult season is you having deeper faith and more joy. That's exactly why James chapter 2 says this. James 1 says this in verses 2 and 4. Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith, watch this, produces steadfastness, and let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Count it all joy when I meet trials. Here's why. Because God, the gardener, God sees where we are right now, but God's also got the finished product in mind. God also sees what He's making us into. And listen, what's going to get me from where I am to what God sees, God is going to let me walk through some trials to get there. Did you know that? God's going to let me walk through some pain and heartache in order for me to get to be the person that He sees, that He wants to make me into. Joni Eareckson Tada. Maybe it's a name you know, maybe it's a name you don't know. If you don't know the name Joni Eareckson Tada, you should Google it. Joni Eareckson Tada is one of the most influential Christian women, one of the most influential women in the world. She was 17. She was involved in a diving accident, and from the age of 17, Joni Eareckson Tada has been a quadriplegic. And this is what Joni Eareckson Tada says. I love this quote. Look at this. Joni Eareckson Tada says this about her quadriplegia. My weakness, that is my quadriplegia, is my greatest asset, because it forces me into the arms of Christ every single morning when I get up. Did you see that? This is my greatest asset. What if your pain could be your greatest asset. I am telling you, yeah, pain is real, but there's more to it than you can see. That's why we live by faith, not by what? Does anybody know? That's why we live by faith, not by sight. Because there is more to it than what I see. The third thing you need to know about pain is that pain is part of the process. Pain is part of the process. I'm gonna say something right now, and it's going to totally blow your mind. It's going to totally devastate some of your all's worlds. I'm sorry you had to find out about it like this, but have you ever heard the saying, God won't put more on you than you can handle? Have you ever heard that saying? Raise your hand if you've heard that saying. I hear that all the time. Mark, the Bible says God won't put any more on you than you can handle. Yeah, He will. Hell, God will put a lot on you. Did you know that's not in the Bible at all? That's actually a misquote of a verse from Corinthians when Paul talks about God getting us out of temptation. Listen, there's no point in the Bible. Some of you are like, what? I've got that on a coffee mug. I know, and your coffee mug's cute, deer, drinking out of the stream. God won't put any more on you than you can handle. The book of Isaiah says that God crushed Jesus. If God did that to His Son, God will do that to us. Not to the same degree that He did Jesus, but God will let us walk through pain and trial. And here's why. Because God wants me to depend on Him more than Mark. God wants you to depend on Him and trust Him more than you do yourself. Listen to me and never forget this when it comes to your trials. God doesn't send pain into your life to hurt you. It's always to lead to life. God doesn't send pain into anyone's life to hurt them. God's not sending pain and trials into our life to watch us suffer. Instead, God lets us walk through a trial, a season of pain, because that will lead to life. I mean, we love Romans 8:28, don't we? Romans 8:28 says this, for God will work all things together for the what? Does anybody know? Good. God will work all things together for the good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. What is God's purpose for your life? What is God's purpose for your life? We just did a whole series about it in January called Better. What's God's purpose for your life? Listen to me. Lean in for a second. Let me tell you what God's purpose isn't for your life. Let me tell you what isn't the purpose of God for your life. All right? The purpose of God for your life is not to make you rich, to make sure you never get sick, and to make sure your life is always comfortable. It's not. I don't care what any Christian preacher on television tells you. All right? I don't care how expensive his suit is. I don't care how good his hair looks. I don't care how white his teeth are. I don't care if he has a private jet. Jesus did not die to make you rich and happy. He didn't. He didn't. That was good, man. I'd have amen that. Golly, if we'd give an offering right now, I'd give, right? Come on. Right? You got to know this. You got to know what is the purpose of God for your life. I'll tell you right here, it's in verse 29. We can't stop at 28. We got to go to 29. For those whom He foreknew, He also predestined to be, watch this, conformed to the image of His Son, in order that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. God's purpose for your life is to make you like Jesus. Pain is part of the process. Listen, what if God would let you walk through a season of pain because God knew that your season of pain would help other people? God knew that you would be a bigger blessing because He let you walk through this season of disappointment because you can minister to people who will go through a similar disappointment. I just want you to know that pain is part of the process. But not only is pain a part of the process, next you need to know that pain has an expiration date. That's good right there. That's good. One person is happy that pain is going to end. Two people. No, it's too late. It's too late. I am perfectly aware it's 11:55. I was told I can go to 12:10. I'm going to milk every moment. I hope He gets us out at 12:10. Right? Why? Because pain is part of the process. That's why. Pain has an expiration date. I love this verse. Look at this verse. 2 Corinthians 4:17. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. He says this light, momentary affliction. Some of you are reading that and say, listen, I don't know who wrote that, but he must have never suffered like what I suffered with. I mean, my internet's real slow. I got slow internet. I can't watch YouTube. Right? The Apostle Paul wrote that. That's a man that suffered. The Apostle Paul was put in prison for his faith. He was stoned for his faith. Not recreationally. Some of you are like, I like that dude. No, not that way. Not that way. Rocks thrown at him, tried to kill him. Shipwrecked for his faith. Paul got a physical condition. Most Bible scholars believe Paul was never healed from his physical condition, even though he begged God to heal him. Paul was a man that suffered, but listen to me, when Paul compared his present suffering to where he was going, he knew that suffering wouldn't get the last word over his life. Jesus would get the last word over his life. Because I want you to know, man, listen to me. Listen to me. You got to know that there is coming a day, and it is coming quick, y'all. There is coming a day when pain ends, crying ends, cancer ends, death ends, and we will be with Jesus forever. You got to know that. You got to know that. Pain has an expiration date. Listen. If you are a believer in Jesus, He gets the last word over your life, nothing else. Nothing. I don't care what doctors have told you. In Jesus Christ, you are going to be healed. In this life or the next. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You have victory over everything in His name. In this life or the next. Pain has an expiration date. Number five. Last thing you need to see about pain is I'm not the first one here. I'm not the first one here. It can feel that way, though, when you're hurting, can't it? When you're hurting, man, when you are going through some stuff, when it just seems like the world is caving in, it can feel like nobody's ever been through what you're going through, right? It can feel like nobody's ever hurt. Like I'm the first one here. Nobody has suffered the way that I'm suffering. But when you look at the Bible, you can see that God has a consistent track record of taking care of His people regardless of their circumstances. When you read the Bible, you can say, wait a second, I'm not alone. I'm not the first one here. I'm not the first one to suffer this way. Joseph in the book of Genesis, Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, most of his life spent in prison. And on the other side of it, Joseph looked back on all of it and said, God meant it for good. David, we love David. David killed Goliath. King David had a great legacy, but David spent most of his life before king running for his life from King Saul, who was gossiping about him and tried to kill him. Daniel, a godly man, where was Daniel thrown? Into the lion's den. And the same God that took care of them can take care of you. The same God that was faithful to them is faithful to you. But listen to me, not just did they suffer, not only did they suffer, Jesus suffered. I love what Hebrews says in Hebrews 4:14 through 16. Since then we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then go with confidence to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. When I look at Jesus, all of a sudden I'm reminded, wait a second, I'm not the first one here. In this place of hurt, in this place of betrayal, in this place where I am alone, Jesus was here. Jesus was betrayed. Jesus was left alone. On the cross, He cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus suffered. Jesus was killed. And then Jesus, after He was killed, rose from the grave. And where is He now? He is alive at the right hand of the Father, the divine gardener. And listen, He is praying for you. When He sees you suffer, He says, Father, that one's mine. And just like Jesus' death led to resurrection, I am telling you, your pain can lead to life. It can. See, listen, when the pressure is on and pain is real in your life, you've got two options. You can lean in or tap out. You can lean in. You can lean in and say, God, this is hard, but you are good and I will trust you regardless. Or you can tap out, get angry and walk away. And a lot of people do that. And let me tell you, option number 2 only leads to regret. Some of you in this church right now, I know this because I'm talking to you. And you're hurting. You're hurting right now. This is the darkest season of your life. And you don't know if you're going to get out. And you don't know if everything's going to be okay. And you're wondering what's going to happen. You're confused. You're disappointed. Your heart is breaking. And I want to say today, lean in. Lean in. Your marriage is falling apart. Lean in. God is faithful. You got that diagnosis you hoped you would never hear. Lean in. God is your healer. People are talking and they're trying to ruin your reputation. Lean in. You have approval from Jesus Christ. Done deal. Your kids are making decisions and you hate to think where that road's going to lead. lean in. You're confused, lean in. You feel abandoned, lean in. I am telling you that God, the divine gardener, sees the people that He's going to make us into. And a part of that process is pain. Don't walk away, lean in, because He's good. Some of you are here right now. Some of you are here right now, and you do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ. You're not saved. You're not Christians. And you're thinking, man, I don't know how we're going to get out of this mess. I've tried everything to fix myself. I've tried everything. And I want to tell you today, that's part of the problem. Because listen, we can fix a lot of things. We can fix a lot of things. But there comes a point in my life where my problems are too great. I need someone greater than me, and His name is Jesus. I want you to know today that right now, God can use your pain to lead to life. So what you need to do right now, today, in this moment, you need to come to Him. Some of you right now, you're hurting, and God right now wants to begin the process of healing that hurt. Let's pray. Let's pray right now. Jesus, we just come to you right now in your name. In your name. You are right now at the right hand of the Father. And from that position, you hear us and you intercede for us. You pray for us too. And God, we just pray because God, in this world, in this life, there's going to be pain, there's going to be hurt, there's going to be trial. And God, I pray for every single believer in Jesus that we would lean in this moment. God, don't let anyone walk away. God, there are people in this church right now, their marriage is falling apart. It feels like their life is falling apart. Jesus, right now, would you give them the faith and the strength to lean in, to see that they are loved, that you are good, that you are with them, and that you are faithful regardless. God, for the person right now that doesn't have a relationship with you, I pray that, God, you would begin to move and that people would come to faith in you today for the very first time, with every single head bowed, with every single eye closed. I'm just going to ask you one question today. I'm going to ask you one question. But I believe today was for somebody. Say, Mark, today was for me. I'm hurting. Would you pray for me? Would you just raise your hand right now if that's you? Mark, I'm hurting. Just pray for me right now. Just raise your hand if that's you. Raise your hand. Hands are going up there. In the middle, more hands. Here's one right over here. There's two. There's some in the back. Mark, I'm hurting right now. Would you pray for me? Hands are going up all over. Put your hand up. Put your hand up high. There's more. There's more right there. I'm going to ask you to do something maybe you've never done in church, but here's what I want to do today. We just want to encourage you. We want you to know that you do not have to walk through this alone. So maybe you raised your hand, maybe you didn't, and maybe you've never done anything like this in church before, but why don't you do it today? If you just raised your hand, or maybe you didn't, but you're hurting, I want you to get up right now and make your way to the back of this auditorium. There are people that just want to pray with you and tell you that God is faithful. You don't have to tell them anything. They just want to encourage you and let you know you're not alone. Would you just get up right now and go? Just get up right now and go. Say, I've never done this before. Ask the person next to you to go. You just get up and go right now. If you're hurting and you raised your hand, I would love for you to go right now. You just go. You just go. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You just go. People are going right now. People are going. Some of you are looking around, seeing if you'll be the only one. You're not. People are going. You go. You go to the back right now. If there's somebody that wants to pray with you, just go. If that's you. Let me ask this question while people are moving. While people are moving, while people are going, let me ask this question. Do you have a relationship with Jesus Christ? If you say, Mark, I don't, I believe right now that's why you're in this place. I believe right now that's why you're in that seat. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity right now to ask Jesus Christ to come into your life and to save you, and you can begin a relationship with Him today. If you want to give your life to Jesus, if you want to be saved today, I'm going to pray this prayer. I just invite you to pray this prayer with me. Say this, say, Dear Lord Jesus, forgive me for my sin. Come into my life and save me. I give my life to you today for the very first time. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for dying for me. Thank you for coming back from the dead for me. I want you to be my Lord. Help me to live for you from this moment forward. With every head bowed, with every eye closed. Listen, if you just prayed that prayer, you just made the biggest and best decision of your life, and I just want to celebrate with you. If you just prayed to give your life to Jesus Christ, just raise your hand right now so I can see it. Just put your hand high in the air so that I can see it. Say, Mark, I just made that decision. Go ahead and raise your hand. If you made that decision today. Listen, if you made that decision today, I want you to look at me. In the back of this auditorium right now, we've got free Bibles. We've got a book that's called Seek First, and I'd love to give you that book. So on your way out, I want you to just grab those. But on the back of your connection card, there's a box that says, I gave my life to Christ. Don't leave today until you let somebody know the decision that you've made. Father, we thank you for Jesus. We thank you that He is alive, that God, in the midst of our pain, in the midst of our hurting, we are loved. And God, while pain is real, it's not the greatest reality. You are. So God, I pray that you would have your way in our lives. I pray for the people who are hurting, who are confused, disappointed, heartbreak's a reality in their life right now. I pray that, Jesus, they would know they are yours more than they ever have. And God, for the person who's here, maybe they're hurting and they're looking for an answer. Jesus, you are that answer. Father, thank you for today. In your name, amen. Amen. Let's thank God for today. Let's thank God for what he's done today. People have made decisions, responded to the gospel. Here's what I want to say. Look, it's 12:06. I'm going to let you out early. It's like Christmas, isn't it? Merry Christmas. I want to say one thing. Right after church today, we're having a meeting for Mega Sports Camp. It's going to be one of the biggest events we've ever done for kids and teenagers. If you want to be a part of it, lunch is provided over there in the multipurpose room. Hey, if today's your first or second time, man, let's meet at the welcome table. All right? And guys, listen, really quick, one more thing. Saturday's Explosion. If you want to help, be at the park at 10. Got questions? Let me know. Love you guys. You are dismissed to go watch the UK Wildcats.